Hi, I'm Stephen Hand from Archery Supplies. Today I want to talk about arrows for field archery, 3D and just normal field archery. So this is a really fast arrow. This is a Victory 3D HV, really fast. And this is a Victory VXT, so this is a target arrow. Now you'll see the difference in thickness. The VXT is a 166 and the 3D HV is a 204. Now the big difference here is this arrow, the 3D HV, is 100 grains lighter than this arrow. Same spine, different point weights in the arrows, but a big difference. And this has a big impact on the speed of the arrow. You got to say, well, what difference does speed make? Okay, so the first thing, when you're shooting in wind, like today, a thinner arrow is going to have less wind, okay? It's going to be affected less by wind. So this is all the theory. An arrow which has got a heavier point weight, or an arrow that's heavier, will be affected less by the wind. However, a heavy arrow will be slower in the wind, right? So there's a playoff here. So on the weekend I shot in a tournament. And I shot both arrows. So I'm going to talk about that. But first thing I want to talk about, and I want to show you, is my sight settings. So I've got some sight settings for both arrows, which I'll put up on the screen rather than my writing. But with the 3D HV, from 10 meters to 25 meters, there's 1 point difference. On the VXTs, from 10 meters to 25 meters, it's 5 points difference. And then each distance, 5 meters, is 3 points difference in the 3D HVs and 4 points difference in the VXTs, because the VXT is slower. Now, why this makes a difference, if you're shooting unmarked 3D archery and you guess it wrong by 1 or 2 meters, you're going to hit more often or score better points with a faster arrow, okay, than a heavier arrow. Now, if you're shooting no distance for target archery, well, then you probably don't really care about speed, unless you're shooting long distance or struggling to get the distance. Like recurve archery, you might be struggling to get the distance, in which case the arrow speed is important. So, for target archery, shooting distance, you're probably going to be going for a heavier arrow with a heavier point weight, probably. Now, in my testing, it basically didn't make much difference, and if it's a fine day, it's not going to make any difference. So for 3D, for field archery, if you're shooting up a hill, an incline, you've got to change your sights. Now, if you're not an experienced field archer, you're probably going to say, well, let's say the distance is 40 meters. Do I have to set my sight to 37 meters or 36 meters or 38 meters? The faster arrow is going to give you more tolerance. Now, if you're a great shooter at field archery, let's say like a Dave Cousins, you're going to know what those cuts are because you've done this all your life. So it's not going to make a difference if you shoot a VXT, which is what he shot, or a 3D HV, because you're going to know what the cuts are. So for someone like Dave Cousins, who wins the World Field Championships, he's probably going to shoot the VXT, which he did. But if you're not as confident, this is where the faster arrow is going to come into play. So on the weekend, I shot the 3D HV. Now in the wind conditions, at 60 meters, it was fairly windy. The arrow drifted that far on the target. So now the VXT in the wind, which is windy as well, drifted a very similar amount in the wind. So barely I could pick the difference. So I don't know what that means. This is in the wind for a shorter amount of time than this, or split seconds, and the thickness is not that great. So I'm going to say all trial and error. I'm going to say that my 3D HVs are slightly longer than my VXT, so if you're really worried about wind, you could cut it back. But again, I'm going to say for the average archer, and I'm going to say the average archer, if you're an elite archer and you're on a world stage, then by sure cut this down, because you're reducing the grains by 8 grains per inch. So 8 grains, the weight of 2 veins. Sure, cut it down, see if it makes a difference. But if you're an average archer, it's not going to make much difference overall. It all gets back to making good shots, knowing your distance, and practice. So if you're shooting field archery and you're shooting up hills and down hills, you've got to know what cuts are. You've got to know how much to adjust your sight for, let's say, 60 meters or a 20 meter shot. Now, the VXT has got the same, the 3D HV has got the same sight setting for 10 meters to 25 basically. So when you're shooting down a slope or up a slope, you've got this huge confidence that you're going to hit because the sight setting is the same for both. With the VXT, you've got to make an adjustment, and that becomes hard. And I'm going to say home court advantage has huge impact. So if you know the field course, it has a huge impact. So when I knew a field course, I would sit at that target and just shoot it and shoot and shoot and shoot it. So I get used to it and build confidence on each individual target. You'll see in archery shoots, field archery on their home course is always better than when they go away because they know the course. So anyway, I hope that's been helpful. So fast arrows versus heavy arrows. Now, I'm also going to answer a question about how long they last. This arrow is over 4 years and this arrow is over 4 years. I've got the whole set. So I've got the original 12 of those. I've got the original 12 of these. I'm going to say this arrow is going to be stronger, the VXT, than the 3D HV, because the wall thickness is thicker in the thinner arrow. So when the arrow comes and whacks it, less likely to break it. Okay, so the VXT also has this special sort of carbon finish which cross weaves, makes it extremely strong, but I haven't had any problems with the 3D HVs. But if you're missing and hitting trees, if you're missing targets, you shouldn't be shooting 3D HVs anyway. Shoot cheap arrows because they're fine. But for 3D archery, where you're guessing distance, I'd certainly go for a really fast arrow. Because that way, if I guess the distance wrong, doesn't really matter because the arrows are really fast. I'm Stephen Hand from Archery Supplies. Thanks for watching.